Dear students, welcome to Mavericks English classes. In this video, we are going to discuss a very important poem of the first flight book of Grade 10 English. That is, the Ball poem written by John Berryman. But before I start my video, I'll inform you that this video will be divided into two segments. First, we'll be talking about the writer, a brief idea of the life of the writer. And second, we'll be talking about the summary of the poem in detail. Many of you would ask me, why about the writer or why about the poet? It's because when we know about the life of the poet, when we know about the life of the writer, we get to understand the perspective of the writer. We get to understand the social, cultural background of the writer, which in turn helps us to understand the text or the poem, whatever we are going through, in a better way, right? But before I get into the explanation of the poem and about the writer, I'll just tell you that this poem, the Ball poem, revolves around the process of loss. This poem makes us acquainted with the process of loss that every individual has to go through in his or her life. No matter what you are, no matter who you are, you cannot save yourself from this depressing process of loss, whether it be emotional loss, financial loss, loss of a relationship or a friendship, or even the loss of a loved one. The only thing a human being can do is to understand that this process of loss is inevitable and learn to endure it whenever it happens. You have to learn to endure the pain like everybody does whenever this process of loss comes in your life, right? So we will discuss about this process, this loss, the signs of loss in detail when we will discuss the summary of this poem in detail, right? But before that, let's go ahead and talk about the writer. The poet of this poem is John Berryman. John Berryman was born on October 17, 1914 at McAlester in Oklahoma. He was raised there till the age of 10 when his mother and father shifted to Florida. In 1926, when Berryman was 11 years old, his father shot and killed himself. The death of his father haunted Berryman for the rest of his life. He wrote in many of his poetries about his struggle to come to terms with it, that haunting feeling. Once he wrote that the mad drive to commit suicide wiped away his entire childhood. He was married 3 times and he lived a turbulent life. Though he was a prolific writer who wrote about complex human emotions, and he was quite successful, a novelist and a poet, still he continued abusing alcohol and struggled with depression throughout his life. And eventually, on January 7th, 1972, he jumped in the Mississippi River and ended his life. His thought process and depressing life can be easily felt in the Ball poem that we are going to discuss today. Now let's look at the summary of this poem in detail. In this poem, the poet saw a boy who had lost his ball. The poet was thinking as to what the boy is going to do now. The ball had slipped from the hands of the boy and went bouncing over the street and fell into a river or a pond. There are other balls as well, but the boy was shaking with grief and stood rigid, staring at the water. The poet said that he would not intrude into what was happening, as even though a ball doesn't cost much, but giving money to buy another ball would not going to return the sense of belongingness and the childhood memories of the boy that he had with the ball. The poet says that the ball here also represents the childhood memories of the boy. The boy for the first time gets a sense of responsibility. In this materialistic world, where people are mostly concerned with materialistic gains and possessions, they will face loss, and this is inevitable. The poet says that people will take balls and balls will be lost. And money is not a replacement for the feeling of pain that is associated with loss. Money is external. We have to take care of our belongings and our relationships as much as we can. The boy is now learning the process or the science or the epistemology of loss. He is now learning to stand up and face the losses that would come in life. And this process, every human being has to learn at one point of time in life. And most of us have already learned to endure and tolerate the pain of loss. So the moral of the poem is, no matter what may come in life, we must be prepared for the worst. That is a popular saying is that do your best, leave the rest to God, and be prepared for the worst as well. Because life is very unpredictable. Anything can happen at any given point of time. We must be ready. And as it is said that life is a mixture of good and bad times. Sometimes you will get everything, and sometimes you will have to lose as well. You might have to lose your relations. You might have to lose your love. You might have to lose money. So be prepared to endure the pain that comes with that loss. And this loss is inevitable. You cannot avoid that. Someday or the other, at some point of life or some other point of life, you will have to face losses. You will lose something very dear to you, and you have to be ready to accept that situation and face that situation with strength and courage, right? So this is all about the poem, the ball poem, and I will see you in the next video with another chapter of the same book of Grade 10 English. Till then, have a great time and best of luck for your examinations. Thank you for watching.